All right. Thank you very much for being with us today. My name is Robert Gilling from UVC Cleaning Systems, and I am here at a local assisted living home, and I'm here to talk to you today about our Safe Zone UVC device. This thing is awesome, and it's used as an adjunct tool in your normal cleaning practices. So what's going to happen is after you go ahead and clean or get rid of the rest of the things in your environment, you're going to use this device afterwards in order to help clean the surfaces that may have been missed. The whole reason that it's used after the room is cleaned and it's not considered a primary tool is because that it doesn't really penetrate through surfaces that well. Really, you only get about 1 millimeter or 2 of penetration, so it's not going to clean up any like physical soils on the surfaces or anything like that. But what it does do is a great job of what you can't see, and that's kill microbes on a very, very light and biological level. It's proven to do a great job of killing COVID and a lot of other different pathogens that you may experience here in this assisted living or nursing home type of environment. So we have a few simple goals today. The first is talking about application of use, and again, the first thing we want to make sure is that when we're using this tool here, it's not going to be used when people are going to be present in the room. So it's used after the manual cleaning processes are done and before the resident comes back into the room to use it. So the biggest thing is, from a safety perspective, people cannot and should not be in the room while the device is running. And there are some safety features like audio warnings and remote operation that we can talk about here in a little bit to accomplish that. The first thing we want to talk about is setup of the environment. So here we are in a standard residence room in an assisted living home, and we happen to be in a suite today, which has a number of different items from furniture and different plates and things like that you can see behind me. And let's talk about the goals of UVC disinfection in terms of the environment. UVC again does not penetrate very well, so we need to expose as many surfaces as we can in order to do the best job possible. And in the environment you'll see here in a minute, the goal is the best direct line of sight, meaning that from the bulb to whatever surface you're trying to strike, if you can get best line of sight, you're going to do more of a thorough job of disinfection. No matter what, on front, side, and back for air and surfaces, you're going to do a good job against things like COVID. But if you want to do more extreme, you definitely want to put the objects that you're trying to kill in the center of the room, and we'll explain a little bit more of that. So, for example, in the living room here, if you have something on the counter like flowers or cups or whatever the resident may have, you're going to want to clean that off as best as possible, because UVC will do a great job of cleaning around as far as the surface, but it's not going to clean under the surface because it's not exposed where underneath of this is. So we want to make sure, again, the surfaces are exposed and able to use. And again, if you have something against the wall, we're going to want to make sure we pull it off just a little bit away from the wall. And the reason, again, for that is for light it does reflect off different energy or surfaces. So by getting something to the back side of it, you're doing a good job. I often think of this as a form of sound as well as light, because direct line of sight does work well, but when we talk, it really does reverberate through the room, and there are reflective properties with 254 and UVC, so reflection does work as well. So the environment, again, is all about setting up and making sure that you have things exposed by removing things from the surface. If you have plates and other things that are on the counter, again, what's going to happen is the surface of them will be disinfected or cleaned, but the underneath of them definitely will need a little bit of room. So that really covers the environment as far as in this type, and I'm sure we're going to talk about some more here, but we at least wanted to cover in a standard room what you should do. If I'm walking in, this room doesn't have a whole lot into it, and the reason for that is because it's really best case practices for what you would do for UVC, and this is optimal. Now, as clean as you can get, you're going to want to get to that stage. All right, thank you for joining me in stage 1, and that is setup of the environment. And next we're going to move to stage 2, which is going to be setup of the unit and how we're going to operate that. Here we are at stage 2. We've got our room pretty much set up or staged in the way that we want to go ahead and treat it with. And now we're going to talk about how to set up the device, where should we place it in the room, and what should we expect as far as a different kill level based on our operating procedures. So the first thing is with the device, it's very, very portable. The main unit itself that removes from the base here weighs about 40 pounds. And then the base itself weighs 10, so just under 50 is what the total combination, and it really makes it light to be able to reposition. And this style of unit and application is using a tower system to reposition in different areas throughout the room to really get maximum coverage. Mentioned in step 1 about this direct line of sight and trying to move it around, as well as get the radius that it's able to cover and do the most efficient job that you can. So the unit, in me in particular, I have one of each of our models here. The difference in our models is that one of them does have motion sensors and one of them doesn't. Some customers like to have that application, for example, when they're in a type of an environment where they have assisted living or dementia patients, where they want to make sure that people are being held safe. So you want to go ahead and place these. The radius that you're going to get for kill is about a maximum of 10 feet. And that's all based off of physics and the law of inverse square. So the further that you move away from the unit, the exponentially worse it's going to get as far as the amount of energy accumulation in the end. So we want to get a maximum radius range of about 10 feet on the unit. And that means a diameter of up to 20 feet. So the ring that you're going to get, a 20 feet maximum for this unit, is really about the limitation of power and output. Now, you could run it for a longer period of time to achieve further distances, but the application is all about quick turnaround time, and I'm giving you a sweet spot that we're trying to reach as far as what is the quickest turnaround time we can get to do a maximum efficient kill ratio. Of course, being adopted from hospital and other environments, that is our goal. So 10 feet on this unit for a radius, 20 feet diameter. In the room that I'm in now, I'm gonna guess somewhere in that 10 to 15 feet wide and maybe a hair longer, 15 to 20 feet. So, I mean, this is a standard room, some bigger, some smaller. We've got a bathroom and bedroom over here. We're certainly gonna talk about those. But in this particular application, how I would treat it and recommend is to run 2 different cycles or in 2 different positions. So the first one is going to be treating the first half of the room independently here, and the second one will be treating the second half of the room over here. Goal is to get distance from the surfaces we're trying to treat, like the surfaces on the top of here and here, and getting those to a position of close to the lamp that we can. So for the first one, I'm going to position something along these lines. We'll go ahead and bring the unit over to this side. And I know I have furniture in the way here, so the lamps and stuff are going to get hot, but I would go something, close to here. And the reason for this is because my distance, again, between here and the furthest wall is about 10 feet, which is where the cameras are positioned right now. For the second position running, what we're going to do is something about here. And if I were to measure in an application just for general sense, let's walk between them. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 roughly steps between them. And you say 3 feet apiece, and that's 12 feet between units or so that we have here. So the goal between any surface that we're trying to touch, again, at a maximum being 10 feet. So the distance between where I'm at with the unit here and all the way over, again, roughly 10 feet from these surfaces. So goal for timing. Our goal for timing, I'm going to recommend somewhere between 8 and that 10-minute mark, and really shooting more for that 10-minute. And here's a really simple rule to follow. 1 minute is equal to about 1 foot of kill distance using this device. So if we're using it to its maximum potential of 10 feet radius, I'm going to tell you to run it for 10 minutes. If it's 8 feet or a little bit less, certainly we can shorten our time, but 10 minutes is a good time. If I had 1 unit in this room, it would take me roughly 20 minutes because I'd be treating 10 minutes in each position, or it would take me something along the lines of 10 minutes using the 2. I'll give you a disclaimer. You're going to kill COVID in less than 10 minutes. It's really going to be in less than half that time. But my goal and our goal at UVC is to do a sufficient job against all pathogens, including, say, MRSA and C. diff and other hospital-grade infections. So that's where our times come from, okay? So we've talked about the setup of the environment, we're talking about setup of the positioning of the equipment, and that's really the stage 2 in all of this, is knowing how to place, where to get the maximum results, and why we're covering this. The next stage that we're going to cover in 3 is really that we're dealing with the equipment specifically, some of its great features that you can use, and some of how to turn it on and off functionality-wise. Alright, so here we are, stage 3, and we're going to talk about how to function our Safe Zone and Safe Zone Max Plus unit. This whole family comes in 3 different product lines, so you know, and we have one Wi-Fi version and then a simple version, and then the middle grade that does have motion. And the 2 that I have here is a basic Safe Zone Max and a Safe Zone Max Plus. What I have in front of me is our Safe Zone Max. This is the flagship of our device line, and really what you're going to often encounter here, so it makes sense to demonstrate with it. Some of the basic features of this device, so you know, is the cool factor that we've really taken a lot of time to develop something that's ergonomical and simple to use for your device. First thing is, it runs off 7.5 amps. And if you know anything about power, there's roughly 15 amps, sometimes 20 in a circuit. So the goal is to run with 2 devices, splitting the maximum source and getting a maximum effectiveness. So when you use this equipment, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to unwrap the cord from its cord wrap. Some equipment doesn't have it, but this is really nice to have an integrated cord wrap. And also with it, kind of a cool feature is the cord is actually removable. So if you find yourself needing a 5 or 10 or 15 or 20, you can remove the cord from here and actually just put a new one in, whatever size that you want. Give us a call and we'll help you. Starting from the top of the device, you have a basket which holds the remote, and the remote's going to be used to wirelessly activate and deactivate the unit from outside. It's a really nice sturdy place to hold it. You have a stainless steel cage here, which really is safe to be able to bump around and, you know, protect the lamps from damage, and it's safe to, again, move out of the caster base if you want to. One really cool feature of this that we can show you is you can actually run this thing upside down. It's made for it, so that way if you wanted to treat the floors specifically, like in a bathroom, you can do that. And again, showing the versatility of design here. So, for functionality, it's really, really simple. And when I say really simple, I mean it. So the first thing that we have is you have a locking caster base here that we can go ahead and set. When we go ahead and start the unit, the first thing is, again, unwrapping it. I suggest unwrapping the cord completely a lot of times just so you get maximum effectiveness from the lamps, but it's your call. So we plug it in. That's the first step, really simple. I have the remote in my hand. On the side here, what's going to happen is we're going to turn this button on by go ahead and flipping it up. This is a circuit breaker, so the circuit breaker needs to be in the on position, okay? And you only have to do that once. You can leave it on the on position. Below that is a timer, and the timer rates between 15 and 2 minutes runtime, so you can select the amount of time that you want to run, and it's going to go ahead and activate and shut off after that much time that it can run. And again, 15 minutes, because the maximum time on this thing in radius is 10 minutes, 10 feet, and that's its intended design. Outside of setting those 2 functions up, it's a matter of utilizing the wireless remote to activate and deactivate the device. So it's not safe to be present in the room, so I'm going to exit the room, activate the remote, and we'll show you what it looks like turned on here. Very, very cool stuff. So before we do that, we'll go ahead and just position our units, and here's a cool functionality. Unplug it here, here, and I'm going to plug it into another wall to make it a little bit easier. But one thing to think about is just positioning of where you want the units itself and relative power outlets. You're going to find in most of the time of the application that the power outlets are going to be your most limiting factor as far as being able to put it in. So I've got one unit set up there, and I'm going to set the second unit up. And while I set the second unit up, one noticeable feature you'll see is these motion sensors. So before I activate, the difference in operating these two devices is going to be the fact that the motion sensors on this device are going to take a little bit more time to settle once you plug it in and turn it on before they're actually ready to go. And there's also going to be an audio warning that's going to let you know how things are going to go. And we'll give you some samples of that here in the video of what that looks like, but the whole goal is the same. Turn it on by turning the switch and then pressing your timing button. This one particular has a little bit longer timer, up to 30 minutes. You know, just one of the difference in features, but it's all that same concept, right? You have a wireless remote, you're turning it on, plugging it in, setting it up, and then we're going to operate this and setting it up. So just to review with you, setting up the environment was the first step. Setting up the equipment and positioning, second step. We just covered how to operate the device and some of its basic features by turning it on, making the circuit breaker switch on the bottom is turned on, and then selecting your time using the timing switch. And then finally, third and final, is operating using the wireless remote. Remember, because I'm running with multiple units, I have okay, my motion sensor is on. I have different serial numbers here, so just pay attention to that. The reason this serial number, this motion sensor is going off is it's letting me know actually that I'm walking in the room and that there's motion being caused right now. So it's a safety feature that's intended to be there. So if I were to stand still for a period of more than 10 seconds or exit the room, it's going to be quiet, and once it's quiet, I can activate the device from outside the room. So I'm going to shut this off and continue talking for a moment. And yeah, we are assumed going to be set up ready for our positioning. You heard our motion sensor going off. We're going to go ahead and exit the room and again activate the device by pressing start and moving on. Hi, my name is Robert, and we are back here in a nursing home environment, and specifically in the bedroom, talking about how to treat this area. So what we're going to do, the first thing is I've got my cord here just as a cool feature. It is removable again, and I can go ahead and plug that in to make sure that we're good to go. And once we're plugged in with the cord, let's talk about positioning in the room, best case scenario, how we're going to apply. This is a really, really small room. I mean, total distance, maybe 10 by 10 feet. It's not that big. So it is perfect size when it comes to treating with our safe zone and being able to do what we need to do in a one position treatment. So for this, I'm going to find either side of the bed that is really decent as far as the best side and go ahead and just plug my unit in. You can leave the cord right on the ground if you'd like. If you had 2 units for best application, I'm going to tell you put one on either side of the bed. You get most best direct line of sight, but in this application, since I only have one and I want to talk about timing and maximum efficiency, one side of the bed using for 10 minutes, or if I had labor in the extra time, I can do both sides of the bed for something like 5 minutes. So either way, it's the same time. It's just about efficiency and what you want to do from a labor perspective. But we're plugged in, circuit breaker's on. I've got my timing switch set to a 15-minute runtime, and I'm going to use my wireless remote to activate and deactivate. When I close the door, I'm making sure there's nobody there. There's also a door warning sign that I could put here, and often a lot of facilities make something of their own signage. And it's just a matter of hitting the button. It's an on and off activation, deactivation. When I turn it on, you're going to hear an audio in the background, and that's letting us know that the unit's running and safe, and it's a safety feature to let us know do not enter and go in there. We can also hear a fan and some other features going on, but I'm going to let it go for the 10 minutes while I go and do other activities and really not be dedicated to this space and let it do its job. Just to show you a picture, you know, from inside, I'm going to move it out of the way, but really that's it. It's setup of the environment and the equipment in here. So let's shut it off. The couple of features just to talk about in this bedroom. First thing is drawers. If I really want to do a decent job cleaning the drawers, I need to open them up. Okay, so the more drawers you can open and expose surfaces you can. I need to remember that if I have call buttons or other things like that, underneath the surfaces will not be getting cleaned. So the more surfaces and raw stuff that I can leave this, the better, going from there. If I had the opportunity, just with bedding, UVC doesn't penetrate very well, so it's not going to go through the bedding itself. I know, like in a nursing home, if you can actually strip this down to the bare mattress, that would be ideal. Like in a hospital, that's what they do, is they apply UVC before the bed is made. You can certainly use it after, just like in here, but just to give you a couple of different things to consider. If you're going to use it with the bedding on, you're not cleaning the mattress. But if you don't put the bedding on, sometimes that's a hassle, or just configure that into your procedures. But again, opening and exposing different surfaces, talking about bedding, I wouldn't physically move the bed away from the wall here or anything like that and go crazy with it, but certainly make it a little bit more exposed as much as you can, just considering that. Other than that, I think we're set. We ran a little bit of a time, but certainly 10 minutes in the one position, or repositioning the unit and moving it around to the other side of the bed here and running for that second 5 minutes.